Hey guys, Chris Sajnog, author of How to Shoot Like a Navy SEAL, and today I wanted to do something a little different and answer the top 3 questions that I've received on my website. So if you have a question that you want answered, go ahead and make sure you're signed up at chrissajnog.com for my newsletter, and then you can simply post your question below any of my blog posts. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and get started. All right, question number 1, the number 1 question that I've received over the last few weeks, and it's very common, is if I wear glasses, should I be training wearing my glasses? And it's a great question because, of course, if you think if you train with glasses on, and if you're in a life or death situation, a high stress situation, you need to use your weapon, and you've been training using glasses, and then you don't have them, well, that you might think that you would not be able to shoot the same. But what you want to do is you actually do want to wear any prescription lenses that you have when you train, and here's why. When you are training, what you're doing is you are building muscle memory. You're building those neural pathways, and you want to be able to make them perfect every single time. So I always like to, sometimes take things to an extreme to see how it shakes out there. So in this example, if you were to think, what if I had to shoot one day if I was blind, or if I had to shoot in complete darkness? Would you want to practice that whole time in complete darkness? And the answer would be no. You would want to build up perfect muscle memory so when it was dark, your body and every nerve in your body knew exactly what you wanted it to do, and you would do it perfectly every single time. So if you wear glasses, prescription glasses, I wear prescription glasses and I use them every time I shoot, I suggest that you do the same. All right, question number 2 comes from my video about how to cure flinching. And very popular question goes something like, my instructor said that I can just use snap caps or put empty brass casings into my magazine, and this will be a quicker way to cure me from flinching or anticipation. Why can't I just do this? Well, it's a great question because, that is a range trick, an outdated range trick that I used to use as an instructor myself. But with the new rules of marksmanship that I teach, I'm really teaching a more advanced way, a quicker way to get to where you want to go. And in this case, if it's curing flinching, I just ask that instructor what you're actually doing when you use a snap cap or when you put a dry casing into your magazine. And I'll tell you, he's either going to make something up because he doesn't actually know how it works, but if he does give you the answer, the correct answer is you are actually dry firing. I mean, think about it. You've got live round, live round, live round, and then you put in a snap cap or an empty casing, and now you do a dry fire. You do one dry fire iteration. Now, if one dry fire iteration cures you, that's great, but I've never seen that happen, because when we use them on the range, we use it more as a diagnosis tool to find out if you are flinching or anticipating. And if you are, then you need to go back and do some dry weapons training like I recommend in the new rules of marksmanship. Saying that a snap cap or anything like that is going to cure flinching or anticipation would be like saying a thermometer is going to cure you from having a fever. And that's just not the case, as I'm sure you know. So if you do know that you're flinching or anticipating, you've already got it diagnosed, I really suggest you just follow the new rules of marksmanship and practice properly. Practice dry weapons manipulation. Create a perfect neural pathway, and then when you go back to the range, you'll be able to shoot without anticipating. So go ahead and try it out and let me know what you think. All right, so question number 3, our final question for today is, how can I use the new rules of marksmanship with shooting a rifle or a carbine? And surprisingly, I've had a lot of people ask this question, and it honestly leaves me a little dumbfounded. So I wrote down the new rules so I can make sure I go over each one to make sure that I can explain how the new rules of marksmanship can be applied not just to the pistol but also to a rifle or a carbine. All right, so the first rule in the new rules of marksmanship is to train your mind and then your body will follow. So, in the first new rule, you're training your mind. You're coming up with why you're training. You're doing meditation, visualization, and positive, having a positive mindset when you shoot. So, right there, I can't really see how it wouldn't apply to a rifle or a carbine, or how even it would be specific to a pistol. So let's go on to number 2. Number 2 is to plan out your training in detail. So in planning, in that whole planning process, I use the GPS model to plan. You want to gather your information, come up with your plan, and then start training. Once again, nothing about any weapon system in here. Not a pistol, not a carbine, not a rifle. So once again, very easy transfer over to a carbine or a rifle or even a bazooka. All right, number 3, learn to focus. So focusing on your front sight, focusing on your training, just focus on anything you do. Whatever you focus on is it's what you're going to get. So I guess you could just focus on your rifle or your carbine to be able to incorporate that into your rifle or carbine training. All right, number 5 is what you're doing with number 5, dry weapons training, is you're really training without stress. So in the same way you could train without stress with a pistol, you can train without stress with a carbine or a rifle. So once again, it has nothing to do with any weapon system. It's not mentioned anywhere in the rules, anywhere that it has anything to do with a specific weapon system. All right, number 6 is use deliberate practice or deliberate training techniques. So whatever you're working on, you want to really use all the other new rules of marksmanship to come up with how you're going to train. And then deliberate practice is really breaking things down into small little chunks and working them repeatedly over and over. So it's really just not going to the range to shoot, it's doing something, whatever it is, to become a better shooter. And then the final one is to have a constant feedback loop. So as you're training, you want to continually practice over and over to become a better shooter. You don't want to keep making mistakes after mistake and then realize, a day, a week, a month later that you've been making mistakes. So it's just getting that constant feedback to make sure you're improving as fast as possible. So again, this is a really common question, surprisingly, because the new rules of marksmanship, I specifically wrote them to have nothing to do with any weapon system, and so you can use them with a pistol, with a carbine, with a rifle, with a shotgun, with a bow and arrow. And I've actually had some business leaders approach me and ask me to put together a course on the new rules just specifically to training their employees. So it's really, can be used for any type of training. So don't get hung up on its, this weapon system or anyone. It has to do, in this case, just with marksmanship of any weapon or just training to get better with any weapon system. So that's it. If you have a question, make sure you are signed up to receive my newsletter at chrissajnog.com. And if you have a question or comment, please leave them below the blog post in the comment area. All right, so that's it for now. Until next time, keep paving your path to perfection.